Just a quick reminder, the TWI and Kata Summit is in April of 2026. There is currently a $300 savings discount going on. It does run until the end of this month. Thank you for joining us. Okay, beautiful. I think we are at a pause on everybody logging in. So Anne, if you are ready,
I
you can take
am.
over.
Thank you so much, Skylar. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I tried to refresh the picture so people could see where everybody was coming from. Thank you guys so much for doing that. I hope that works. Um, so first off, I just want to give you a little bit of my background, where that hopefully it's refreshing. There we go. So I own my own business, Employee-Centric Leadership. My career has been split 50% in finance and 50% in lean process improvement. I have a background in, let's get that started again, in banking, healthcare, reference labs, shared services, manufacturing. I have two master's degrees, one in healthcare administration, one in organizational leadership. And I've had the pleasure of working for amazing leaders in my career, but I've also experienced some from which I learned what not to do. So maybe you guys can relate to that a little bit. This is great. Thank you guys so much for doing the Menti. It's so exciting to see where everybody is from. I know we have some people across the world here, so having that visibility is fantastic. Don't put your phones away quite yet. I will have another Menti slide shortly. Just try not to look at your phone for the next 30 minutes and focus on the webinar. And so today I'm going to share with you guys an approach to implementing change that has served me well over the years. It's easy to learn, but it does require some consistency and some intention. But this approach can and should be used by anybody who's leading change, from the frontline supervisor to CEOs. It is employee-centered, but it's leader-led. So you ready to dive in? Let's move forward here. All right, so what we're really talking about today is change management, right? So we need to manage change in order to have success. Change doesn't just happen. So change management, what is it? It's a structured approach for planning and implementing organizational-wide change and making it last. But we can use change management not just for organizational-wide changes, but for any change, right? Changing a process, organizational structure, lots of different things. Change management is also coordinated efforts to effectively transform an organization, right? It's coordinated, it's structured, it's coordinated, and it facilitates the change process with an emphasis on people, right? So it's all about the people when we're doing change, but you cannot forget that it's structured, that there's planning required, implementation, and it's coordinated. So change is also a process, right? You can't just decide that you're going to make change on Monday. Change happens in stages that build upon each other. It impacts people at every different level, right? So nobody is immune from change, right? You've got changes, process changes that impact the workers. Everybody sometimes goes through role changes. There's organizational structure change. Nobody is immune to change. Everybody's impacted by it. And change, the most important I find, is change happens while the work still goes on, right? We don't stop working and saying, all right, we're putting a change on Monday, unless there's like a mechanical change maybe, but typically your change is going to happen while you're doing your work, right? So how do you manage that? Like, how do you plan for all of that to happen? And that's what we're going to try to dive into here today. All right, so take your phones out again, and I want you to answer the next question. I think this will work. Answer the next question. What word best represents how you felt during a recent change? Oh, look, you guys are already answering that question. Phenomenal. Love that. So it's working. Beautiful. Let's see if I click this again. There it goes. We're getting an update on it. All right, fantastic. So thank you guys. All right. So now you can put your phones away so you aren't distracted for the next 20 minutes of this presentation. But as you can see, right, I'm glad to see that some people were excited about change. A couple changes were productive. But most of them, right? Anxious, confused, frustrated. Like that's what we feel mostly. Those are the common reactions we have to change. And that's why people tend to resist change is because we remember the last time we went through change, how frustrating it was, how anxious we felt. I had no idea why we were making this change, right? So when we talk about change, I have found that there are these 6 elements that have to be in place to have productive change. Now, I did not come up with this on my own. I have to give credit to Mary Lippitt. She presented this in 1987 as a chart with 5 rows and 6 columns. You might have seen it on LinkedIn. It pops up all over the years, and it's where I was introduced to it in 2012. It has been my go-to for over 13 years of doing changes. So here's how it works. When your team knows why the change is happening, they know what's in it for them, they have the resources needed to execute the work, they have the skills and training to perform the work, and they know what the implementation plan is, they're going to accept the change and execute it more readily. Now, I did not say they were going to have a big celebration and a parade. They're still going to be a little wary about change. They're still going to question. It's not going to be perfect, but it'll be more productive. They're going to accept it more readily. And I've added a circle around those 5 elements that Mary introduced us to. And that's communication because it requires consistent communication as we go through the change. So I'm going to go through each of these elements and talk about what happens when one of these puzzle pieces is missing. So first off, when the why is unknown, right? That's the big one. People are confused. That's where the confusion comes into play. We don't know why we're doing this change. We've all heard the phrase start with why, and it's pretty much become commonplace. Yet we're still not communicating the why clearly enough. People are still uncertain. They're confused by what's going on. For instance, why are we changing software? I like the way our software works today. Why do we have to change it? Or why are we going through another restructure? What's the point? Right? These questions come up. And I think leaders think that they have communicated the change when they've said it in an email or they've announced it at a town hall or in a staff meeting. They've told it once, right? And they're like, but I told you the why. Well, yeah, I told me the why. You told me the why once, but I don't quite remember it. So I have you can go out on my LinkedIn post and I've got a video about 7 times in 7 different ways. But it's really important when you're communicating the why that you do communicate it 7 times in 7 different ways. That means make it visual, put it on a poster, announce it at staff meeting, announce it again at staff meeting. Use the same phrase every time. So you're keeping that message consistent. Big thing. Have to communicate that why. Have to do it more than once. All right, the next one is our WIFM, right? What's in it for me? They ask. So what's the benefit or the incentive to the employee? So when they don't see any benefit, they're going to meet you with resistance, or they're going to implement only a part of the change, the part that they see benefit from. I've got a few bonus questions coming up in a slide later that'll help you come up with what's the why and what's the incentive for them. But one of the things I've also found is if you can roll out part of the change as a pilot, then you can use the feedback from people in the pilot and use that to tell others the benefits that they found when they implemented the change. Because the best WIFM comes from their peers, right? So if their peers have gone through this and they've said, hey, this really is amazing, or this made my work easier, they're going to trust their peers any day over the project leader, correct? So try to see if you can't pilot something and get that feedback. All right, moving on. Our next one is the skills. When they don't think they're gonna know how to do a job, that's where the anxiety comes into place. That new software we're gonna roll out, I like how the other one worked, right? It's gonna take forever to learn how to use this new one. Hey, remember the last time we rolled out a change? There was an hour of training and then was expected to be a master in the next day. I was afraid I was gonna get fired. right? Have you heard those things before? Have you experienced those things before, right? Like we give training and then we expect people to know how to do it the next day. So when I went through a job once, there was a 4-hour orientation, right? Start my job, 4 hours orientation. And during that orientation, they were teaching us how to access the SOPs, the standard operating procedures. And we were supposed to open the SOPs, read through them, sign and date that we understood them, right? So the person going through the training on how to access the SOPs was like, click here, check here, highlight this, click this. Again, first day, orientation, brain is mush. I get back to the desk and I open up the system to try to find these documents. I can't figure out how to open a document. I actually clicked the word open and it didn't do it, right? So I'm pretty tech savvy. It was not an intuitive software program. So I couldn't imagine what the non-English speakers of our organization had to go through if I couldn't understand it and it was given to me in plain English. So that's what creates the anxiety. So when we're training people, when we have a change, not only do we have to make sure we're giving them the skills they need, but we have to make sure they know what those skills are. So train them, then let them show you that they know how to do it, or coaching them through it, or watching them, make sure they know how to do it, and then let them go off on their own. But you've got to make sure you build that into the plan as well. It can't just be about the training. They've got to show that they can actually do the work as well. All right, then we move into resources. So they're going to ask, what do they need to execute the job? Like sometimes they need something new to do the job if you're making this change. So if we go back to that software example, we all have laptops. How old are the laptops? Are they going to be able to handle an upgraded software system? Do they need to be upgraded in order to handle that software system? Don't minimize the types of supplies, scissors, tape, a printer. Those are important to the person doing the work. Will they be available when the change goes into place? Time is a resource. Do they have time in their schedule for that training that they need? People are a resource. Do you need more people to do this training or to do this change, right? So all of these things come under resources, because when they don't have their resources, that's when they're frustrated. You want me to make this change, but my laptop doesn't work. You want me to make this change, but I have no printer on which to print that paperwork. So one example I worked in a laboratory once, and that they would put stickers on the tubes that came in so that the people downstream would know what tests to run on that tube. So a team outside of the lab workers decided to standardize the colors across all the labs, and they were going to provide a dispenser that would hold the stickers on the desk. And everyone was excited because people would have stacks of sticker sheets, like 8.5 by 11 stickers on their desk, covering their desk, or the stickers taped around their monitors so they could reach them easier. So they were really looking forward to these dispensers. But they didn't come. And after 2 years, the dispensers still were not there. People were pretty frustrated by that. But even more than that, because it took so long, they didn't trust other changes that we were going to roll out because they weren't convinced we were going to have the resources. That to me is my aha of how this resource puzzle piece is so critical to change. You've got to make sure those resources are in place. All right, the last element is the action plan, right? If you're not communicating, first off, you have to create your action plan, right? Who's going to do what by when? And then you have to communicate that action plan. And if you don't have an action plan or you don't communicate it, you're going to have false starts, right? Oh, I didn't know that we had to order something, right? Oh, well, that wasn't part of our plan. It wasn't part of our plan to train people. So we have to start over because now we have to train people. Oh, we forgot about that group of people that's going to need to be part of this change. We better start over because we need to include that group of people. So you've got to create that action plan as part of this process. Who's going to do what by when? And so that everybody knows. All right, so behind each and every one of these elements is communication. So if you're not communicating to your team throughout this change process, you are going to fail. So I did have a question come in before this webinar started, that what happens if your organization is in the middle of not having a clear communication plan? And I would say to you, go back and create that communication plan. Which element is missing that is needed? Like, did you forget to you didn't say the why, or you didn't communicate how you're going to roll it out, figure out what you're missing, and then go and create that communication plan and tell them. Like, that's a sign of humility. It's a good leader who can be humble and say, we messed up. We didn't give you the communication plan. Here it is. We're going to catch you up, and we're going to make sure we're communicating with you going forward. And so I'm going to walk you through the communication, but you've got to make sure you're communicating throughout the whole process. And there are two types of communication plans. There's the telling plan. We're all really, really good at this one, right? We're good at telling people what to do, when to do it, how to do it, right? But a true telling plan has what do we need to communicate? Who's going to communicate it? How will it be communicated, right? That staff meeting, email, poster board. When will it be communicated? So time, day, things like that. How often will it be communicated, right? Because we're not going to just communicate something once, something really important. Who owns the communication? So that's different from who delivers it. I may own the communication as a project leader, but the supervisors are going to communicate it to their teams, right? So that we have to know who owns it versus who communicates it. And that leads to what's the message, because we have to have a clear message. I need to make sure that message is clear. I need to make sure every supervisor is delivering the same message. So please don't bury the why in FAQs for the supervisors to read through. Give them a sheet of paper that clearly says what the why is on it, or clearly says what the incentives are. So they know exactly what you're asking them to deliver, and that message is delivered consistently. Okay. The second part of a communication plan is the listening plan. So this involves soliciting feedback, right? So how will we solicit feedback? When will we solicit feedback, right? So if we're going to tell people something, we're going to make a change, we need to get feedback from people. We need to be open to hearing what their feedback is. So how are we going to do that? Sometimes a huddle is a great place to solicit feedback from if you're doing daily huddles. Maybe you have a separate meeting for people to deliver feedback. Maybe you ask them to fill out a survey or send you an email. Try to make it as personal as possible, right? I'm not sending people an email. Many people won't take the time to do it. You've got to make it easy to give feedback. So how will we do it? When will we solicit that feedback? Who's going to oversee the feedback sessions or oversee the feedback itself? Meaning, when they get that feedback, what are they going to do with it? Who's going to own the changes if there's any changes that have to come from that feedback? Who's going to own the changes? Who's going to follow up on communication? So feedback loop, right? Not just feedback, but feedback loop. So I get feedback. If we aren't going to do anything with it, we need to loop back and let people know what's happening with the feedback they gave. Very important to keep that loop going as well. When are we going to follow up, right? Are you going to follow up every day, every week? What's that cadence? And then part of a listening plan is metrics. I know it's not people giving you the feedback, but metrics will give you feedback, and you can use the data from the changes that you're putting into place, right? We're on Lean Frontiers. My background is in Lean, right? That data is going to tell us, are we getting the results we intended or not? So using the data for feedback is part of your listening plan. What metrics are going to we measure? Because you're going to use that in your communication plan as well. All right, so we now know what telling plan, listening plan. Now we're going to talk through, like I mentioned before, we have to communicate throughout the whole change process. So first and foremost, before the change happens, you have to communicate the why and the with them. And I said I've got some bonus questions coming that are going to help you with that. You're going to identify potential areas of resistance. Bonus question for that one too. You're going to share the plan. So whenever you have a plan to share it before you put the change into place. Whatever you know, let them know whatever you know when you know it, and then listen to their concerns, right? You're starting that feedback right at the very beginning. Tell them what you're going to do and then listen for their concerns, because guess what? They're going to tell you things that help you in the planning of the change and help you mitigate resistance later in the change as well. So that's before. Now, during the change, you're going to be providing touch points on how that plan is going. What's changed? What's coming up? What's going well? Hey, we did these 3 things. They went really well. Now we're moving into this phase. Or we had to make some changes because we had some delays. Whatever it is, keep them communicated with. And then you're going to use that listening plan to gather and respond to the feedback. You're going to review your data. What's the data telling you as you're going through the change? And you're going to communicate any changes that are in your plan or in the change itself. Then change is implemented. You're after the change. You're still going to gather and respond to feedback, right? Because now they're living it. Remember, change happens while the work goes on. So once that change went into place, now they're having to work with it while they're doing their work, put it into place. They're going to get, you might get some more feedback, good feedback, negative feedback, all of it, and continue to monitor the data. But please do not forget to celebrate during that change process. And you can celebrate small wins. Like if it's a long-term change, celebrate during the change, some smaller wins. If it's a shorter change, celebrate at the end, but please don't forget to celebrate. All right, so here are the bonus questions that I told you I had. I've used these for so many years. I use them all the time when I'm working with teams that are going through a process change, but even behavior changes. They're so important. You do them beforehand. They're in the before phase. So the first question is, what are the risks to your business? What are the risks to the business do you anticipate if you don't change? If we don't change, so if we don't put that software system into place, what are some of the risks we're going to experience? Well, it's going to be status quo, right? We're going to keep doing things the way we've always done them. Employees are going to continue to be frustrated, or maybe it's more like we'll lose money, we'll lose customers, we'll have turnover of our employees. All sorts of answers you're going to get out of this. And phrase it however you want. Like I change up these questions every now and then, but the phrasing, the key is important. The first one is all about, we're not going to change. What's going to happen to the business? The second one is, what are the opportunities to the business if we do change? Like you're looking to your team to tell us what are the things that are going to be good when we're done with this change. And so like things like, hey, employees are going to be happier. Our customers are going to be happier. We're going to make money, right? We're not going to have to print off that report any longer. We're not going to have to pull from 3 different computer systems any longer. Those are the opportunities that if we make this change, we're going to experience. Those 2 questions really make up your why for the change using the people impacted by the change. You'll also get some with them in there as well. Like what's in it for me? Hey, it's going to make my life easier because of X, Y, Z. You can even ask them up front, what's in it for them? What do they think's in it for them? But you're going to, by listening to those, asking those questions, you're already getting that feedback from them of what they think the reason for doing this is. And you can use their words in the why message, and they're going to even be more engaged and bought in because you listen to them and they believe in the why. They believe in it because they said it. Bonus question number 3 is, what concerns do you have after the change? So we put that software system and program in place. What are your concerns with it? And this is where you're going to hear where your resistance is going to come from. You're going to hear, I'm really afraid we're not going to have the right training, or I'm not going to get trained in how to use this. Or the last time we did this, there was training, but I was expected to be a master the next day. Like they're going to tell you that. You're going to think you already know it, maybe, because I just went through this with a project I was working on. I knew what the answers were going to be. I asked this question. Those were the answers I got, what I anticipated. But they were able to voice their concerns. And throughout the whole project, I've been able to use that and say, remember, we talked about that at the beginning. You can express that concern. Here's what we're going to do about it. We're going to do this. So sometimes you can make changes to your implementation as a result of what you're hearing from your employees. Other times you just put it into your communication message, or you build your communication plan with that in mind. So that third question is all about finding out where the resistance is going to come from before you actually implement the change. So use these 3 questions. I've found them very powerful, and they really set me up for success whenever I go through any changes. So right on time. Whew. So thank you guys for your time. I do have, oh, no, I had one more slide, sorry. Just wanted to reiterate, summarizing, right? 5 elements make up a puzzle. communication surrounds them all, and you'll have happy employees. All right. Thank you guys for your time. If you have any questions, I think we have a few minutes for questions. But if you do want more information, if you want to chat with me, please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or via email.
We do still have a few more minutes, so if anybody does have questions, like Ann said, you are more than welcome to chat them in, and we can answer those live right now. A lot of thank yous.
Oh, hi, Christine. Thank you for being here.
There is one. What do you do to regain lost staff trust during this process?
What do you do to regain lost staff trust? Oh, great question. The biggest thing you can do is just be honest and humble, and name why they lost your trust. If you can name that to them, they're going to be more willing to listen. Name it and then follow up with what happened. We realized that we did not give you the training you needed. We apologize. We're going to stop this change right now. We're going to make sure everybody's trained, everybody knows how to do it. That listening piece, where did you lose their trust? What happened? And then just fix it and just tell them that you're sorry, be humble about it, and then make that change and build on it going forward. Great question.
Do you have any thoughts or comments on how to connect training with the change process you described?
This training, are they asking about doing this?
The change process you described. Yes, it looks like, if I understand the training like TWI.
I don't see the question. Can you ask it again? I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. Do you have any thoughts or comments on how to connect training with the change process you described? Training like TWI.
I don't know how to answer that question. If I would love to chat more with somebody about that, because I don't think I understand I don't want to answer the question erroneously.
Have any advice for staff who have been told there is change and leadership is not providing? Oh, sorry, that wasn't a.
Yeah, that's isn't it? Any advice? Do I have any advice? I've been told there's change and leadership. I think this might be where the other question came from. If you can take this, share this with your leadership team, share it with people in your organization. Like, this is common information. Like, use this. And I find it so easy to use. I share it with people. I walk them through it. It took me 15 minutes to walk you guys through it. And start to incorporate it in your own work and what you're doing, and other people will catch on. And you do, role model it for people. That would be my advice. For just do the change, do it yourself, and share it with everybody. Feedback loops, it all depends on how long the project is, but the more frequent you can communicate with your team, the better off you're going to be. And then what do you do with a person who stirs the pot? Give them a voice. And that's a general, there's a lot of people that can stir up problems, but I find that when you give the person who's most resistant a voice in this change, like asking them those questions, they aren't as likely to be as stirring the pot because you heard them. Real quickly, recently I was doing a thing and people were telling me that providers were going to be a problem, and one provider in particular. I found out why that provider was going to be a problem. And I realized that we didn't actually have to change his process. I just needed to change a couple of the elements in his process so that we could have better work downstream. If I'd had to change his whole process, I would have met with resistant and he would have stirred the pot. But when I was like, no, we actually only need these two fields standardized, it diffused the whole situation. So finding out why the resistance is there is the biggest step to mitigating that resistance. And if you have more questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I always love talking about this stuff.
Okay. Thank you so much, Anne. That is all the questions that I have submitted so far. Thank you again to everybody who participated in here, sent their questions in, and also sent your location and answered the questions for Anne. If you do have any questions, I can provide you with Anne's information when I send out the recording as well. And thank you again so much. Everybody have a great rest of your day, and we will see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.